Hey, YouTube family. I'm a little sheepish to come to you like this, but I am left without other options. Before I explain what I'm asking, don't worry, I'll make it worth your while. Give me 30 seconds to tell you what strange fate befell my good friend Joe. First of all, it should be made clear that Joe did not break any laws or do anything immoral to bring this upon himself. I will be the first to stand up for him and attest. It was all an honest mistake. Joe is a really smart guy. But let's just say he's not the most organized man in the world. What he lacks in organization, though, he makes up for with his quick wit. For example, from year to year, Joe has been getting by without really having full control of his finances. If you asked him how much money he had, he'd say, "I don't know," and it would be the truth. Joe had always believed that things would work themselves out, no matter what happened. He believed he'd be able to pull himself out of any predicament with the sheer power of his brain. I can't even remember the number of times Joe had brushes with financial death, but he always seemed to come out on top. Heck, there were even times where it appeared that Joe was prospering, but that never lasted long. I had always admired Joe's ability to pull himself out of trouble, but in my heart, I knew he was playing with fire. Last year, when it came time to buy Christmas presents, he didn't quite have the funds, but he worked a deal with his bank to advance him a little more on his already overextended credit, and he saved the day. His family had no idea how close they came to having a Christmas without presents, but Joe was not the kind of guy to give his family cause to worry. That event left Joe feeling invincible. He said, "No matter what happens, I seem to be able to manufacture a miracle to pull myself out of my situation." He was untouchable. For the following year, he continued to live as recklessly as he did in the previous years, but pushed the envelope just a little further than before. Then something terrible happened. It was the day after Thanksgiving, and his wife came asking for Christmas shopping money. He knew that his bank balance was close to zero, but he told her, "Sure thing, darling, I'll give you some money next week." That night he sat down to write a new promotion for his business so that he could generate the shopping money for his wife. The next day his promotion began, and it was a huge flop. Not a single order. This bothered him a bit, but he still believed he was untouchable. "I'll work this out," he told himself. He called up his bank and asked if he could get an extension on his credit. No deal. Something about his debt-to-income ratio. He went through the stack of mail on his desk that had accumulated over the last 3 months and found as many credit card offers as he could. "You're pre-approved, Joe," they all said. One by one he called them and they turned him down. Perhaps pre-approved meant something different to them. "We're sorry. We'll send you an explanation in the mail," they frowned. Finally, one of them came through with a limit of $1,000. The card came in the mail 2 days later, and he handed it to his wife. "Here you go, honey. Buy your presents with this card this year. I'm reorganizing my finances and set up this account for sundry expenses." Why not? She had no reason to suspect anything, so off to the store she went. 5 days later, it all began to unravel. His beloved son was in a car accident and suffered serious head trauma. When the ER doctor came out to greet them, he looked quite grim. "Look, I'm not going to kid you here. Your son has taken a serious blow to the head, and it's possible he may never regain full functionality in his brain. I don't think there is any way to do justice to what a parent feels when they hear such words spoken about their child. But there is something—" They looked up through teary eyes with hope. The doctor went on to explain that there was an experimental treatment for head trauma that used hyperbaric, high-pressure oxygen, to infuse the brain and prevent long-term tissue damage. "It's experimental, controversial, and insurance will not cover it. But it's your only hope." "We'll do it," Joe's wife blurted out. Joe felt a sinking feeling in his stomach. He knew that his cards were all maxed out. How was he to pay for this? They rushed their son to the treatment facility, and they immediately gave him a single treatment without asking any questions about payment. When their son came out of the chamber, it was clear that the treatment was working already. The boy, who was barely able to formulate a single word after the accident, was speaking semi-lucidly. A miracle treatment, indeed. The doctor sat with them in the room and explained that the boy needed about 30 treatments to be brought back to normal, and that he'd need to come twice a day for the next 15 days. Each treatment would cost $150. "We'll do it," his wife blurted out again, as a mother would. The doctor rose up as the wife shook his hand, but Joe lingered in his chair. He knew his game was up, and the time for glossing over the truth had come and gone. "Doctor, we have no money to pay you for these treatments. Is it possible to give you payments over time?" The doctor looked on in disbelief. Joe had driven his son and wife over in a luxury car, and he did not wear the clothes of a pauper. What kind of man was this? The doctor stared at him for a moment. "Joe, we do sometimes provide pro bono treatments, but we have a waiting list a mile long. We're an experimental facility, and our only funding is payment from our patients. Priority must go to our patients who can pay." This came across like a slap on Joe's face. "Doctor, we can pay for the treatments. We'll be back tomorrow for the second treatment with cash in hand," Joe's wife said firmly. On the drive home, the rage built up silently in Joe's wife. She began to understand what had been going on. In her mind, she put all the pieces together. When they got home, all hell broke loose. They put the boy in bed, and Joe went to his office, hoping he could manufacture another miracle somehow. Joe looked up from his computer and saw his wife standing in the doorway. He wanted to reach out to her. He wanted to tell her how sorry he was. He wanted to... "Who are you?" she screamed at him. No one knows exactly what happened in the next 5 minutes, but at the end, Joe had a bloody nose, a smashed-up computer, a room full of paper thrown about, and nowhere to go. He drove down the road and slept in the car that night. Joe's wife called me up explaining the situation. Of course, I'd pay for the boy's treatments. Yes, I promised I wouldn't tell Joe she came to me for help. Joe left the family and took his debt and his chaos with him. He knew he was no longer welcome. His wife took the kids and moved in with her parents and is now starting over anew. A week later, Joe showed up on my doorstep unannounced. He looked like he'd aged about 10 years from the last time I saw him. I had to pretend I didn't know what happened, so I listened to the whole story all over again. "Mark, can you give me a loan?" The next 4 words were among the hardest I've ever had to utter in my life. "No, Joe, I can't." Joe was like a brother to me. What kind of bastard was I to refuse him help? "Joe, you're not going to understand why I'm doing this now, but you'll thank me for it later." "I'm not going to help you, Joe. What I'm going to do is train you." I went on to explain to him that if he needed a place to stay some night, he'd be welcome at my home. If he needed a meal, he could break bread with me. But I would not give him money. Instead, I asked him for some. "Joe, give me $1. "What? Don't you have $1, Joe?" If he hadn't known better, he would have stood up and punched me square in the jaw in that moment. "You, man." Joe got up to leave with tears in his eyes. "Get back here and sit down." He slowly walked back in shock, sat down, and listened. "Joe, a few months ago you asked me to coach you, and I told you that you'd have to go through Simpleology first. I even gave free access to Simpleology 102. And what did you do? Like everything else, you blew it off. You went on thinking you knew better. You thought I was just trying to get rid of you. I charge people $2,000 an hour to talk to me on the phone, and I offered to help you for free if you'd only go through these 2 courses first. But you wouldn't even do that. Joe's eyes started to brighten a little bit. He sat in silence, and I carried on. Joe, people have been coming to me for years asking for free help. I've always been very generous with my time, but the fact is it would be simply impossible for me to help everyone who came to me. I created Simpleology so that I could have something for my PA to send folks to when they came asking for help. She has a standing order to send people there first. If they have any questions, they have to first demonstrate that they've gone through all of Simpleology. Do you know why? Joe looked lost. He would have answered if he weren't so shell-shocked. I do that because I know that if they simply followed what I said there, they wouldn't need my help. That's why. Joe started to brighten up a bit more, even. Maybe there was hope. Yeah, he said hoarsely. Listen, Joe, do you know why I ask people for $1 to start the trial of Simpleology 102? I could just as easily let them start the trial for free, and the marketing effect would be exactly the same. So, why the $1? I don't know, Joe mused. Hey, I do it because it's a symbolic act, Joe. That $1 symbolizes their commitment to complete the course. Even that small symbolic act makes all the difference. Joe sat for a moment, and I could see it all sinking in. So, give me my damn dollar, Joe. He laughed. Ha ha ha. Okay, Mark, I get the lesson. No, I'm serious, Joe. Give me the dollar. Mark, I'm broke, man. Joe started to tear up again. Joe, what are you doing for dinner tonight? What? What? Is what a food group? What are you doing for dinner tonight, dude? I'm serious. Well, I was going to get some fast food, I guess. Good. Well, here's what I want you to do. I want you to spare yourself the artery clogging session at the burger joint. Pay me $1 and eat at my house tonight. As my friend. Joe stared at me, and I could see the tears welling up in his eyes. These were good tears. Tears that brothers share when they drop all the macho bulls and realize it's okay to be vulnerable. I held out my hand. He reached into his wallet and handed me the dollar. In that moment, you could feel the very fabric of reality ripping. Joe was sealing a fate for himself from which he could never turn back. A better fate. A stronger fate. One where he'd finally get his act together and grow up. One where he knew he would never have to worry about money again. Heck, someday he'd even regain the respect of his wife. As I cooked him a healthy, natural meal, he sat at my computer and did day 1 of Simpleology 101. The next day, he came over and did day 2 right in front of me. And so on. He hasn't finished 101 yet, but I know that at the end of it, he will immediately go on to Simpleology 102 and follow the course checklist precisely. I know that he'll take that next big step and get his money problems sorted out forever. How do I know this? Because we have a sacred bond. A sacred bond symbolized by the passing of a single dollar bill between the hands of brothers. Earlier in this letter, I promised that I'd ask something of you, and here it is. I want you make this sacred bond with me now. Simpleology 102 is the simple science of money. I'm going to let you try it out today for free so you can experience that same financial turnaround in your life that Joe is about to experience. Imagine if you had gone through life blind and could suddenly see. What would that be like? That's what I'm offering you with this bond. It's a rite of passage that forever changes your worldview. But this bond demands something of me as well. It demands that I exceed your every expectation. It demands that I truly guide you through this awakening. I'm so confident that I can guide you through this as I have for so many others, that I'm giving you an escape clause. I ask you to only try Simpleology 102 for 120 days. In fact, I'll only ask you to try it today as a sign of our bond, and you won't have to pay me anything else until you have had the chance to experience all of this for yourself. Once you do, All I ask is that you give me a testimonial about your experience. Is that fair? After all, if this, the simple science of money, wouldn't you be able to apply what you learn and make many times more than the tiny investment of a few minutes of your time required for the course? You certainly should, and that's why I'm so confident in my offer to let you have it for free. But remember, that bond also symbolizes my bond to you. You have put your trust in me, and I take that trust very seriously. Every care has been taken to give you a truly life-changing experience. Now, I can't promise you will become rich as a result of taking this course. Not only would it be illegal for me to do so, but it would also be wrong. See, someone can flip on the light switch for you, but it is you who must walk to the door. See step 1 below. If you do not find that it pays back your investment of a few moments of your time many times over, don't give me a testimonial. If it does not show you the way to that door, the financial way out you have been longing for, I won't have any hard feelings. I'll even give you another Simpleology course of your choice for free to make up for your time. But I know that's not going to happen. See, I know you have that other essential element, that burning desire to get out of your current situation, or you would not have read this far. You see, there is a little bit of Joe in all of us. Sadly, Joe is the everyman of today's reckless culture. Do you see now why I'm willing to take this risk? I have so much more to show you. But first things first. Step 1. Sign up below. Step 2. Follow the instructions. That's it. That's the first step. The rest I'll show you when I see you inside. All the best, P.S. Did you know that these results will come to you with only 15 minutes a day? At the end of Simpleology 102, you will have incorporated these new ideas into your 15-minute Start My Day routine, and the simple science of money will be hardwired into your daily life. It'll be like brushing your teeth soon. Anyway, more about that when you watch the Quick Start cartoon video in a few moments. P.P.S. I believe that business is all about an exchange, a quid pro quo. This for that. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. If the purpose of Simpleology 102 is to ensure that you prosper, I should only be paid if you prosper, right? That is why I'm going to take all of the risk. That's how dedicated and serious I am about helping you to succeed. Nothing would make me happier than if I were to publish one of your success stories, just like the ones I'm about to show you in a moment. Not only have I removed all of the risk for you, I've painstakingly put together and thought out a step-by-step way for you to master this information and integrate it into your life. See, I've been a student of learning psychology for years. I believe that learning should be fun. Well, you'll see soon enough. Oh yeah, and if you're wondering if Joe's story is real, I ask you, does it matter? After all, it's your story I'm worried about, not Joe's. Thanks for watching, and remember, go to the description, click the link to sign up today. See you inside.